Welcome to the Bible Forum. I'm Warren Sprouse. It is Sunday night, and we're here every Sunday night. This is the part of the program where I launch into social commentary. We're going to talk about puberty blockers. You know what puberty blockers are? Puberty blockers for young children. First, it was abortion. Back in the 60s, abortion became legal. Abortion on demand. But abortion has always been around. Probably from the very beginning. It's always been here. It just never was legalized before. Yeah, but it was done by doctors in the back alley with dirty instruments. Not necessarily. It was done by women who didn't want to have the babies, and they got other people to do awful things to them in order to cause this baby. Yeah, they did. They did. And they are responsible for that, not the government, not the medical profession. We allowed for abortion to stop that abuse. No, we didn't. We allowed for abortion so women could have control of their body. It's abortion on demand. And then we moved that all the way up to the 9th month and beyond. We called it partial birth abortion. Our Congress has moved it back to the first trimester again. And they did that because when they were deciding these issues, all they had were drawings of what that embryo and that beginning child looked like in utero. We didn't have the technology we have today. So they made drawings. And the argument was that that child in that time period of its gestation didn't look anything other unusually different from any other mammal. Now we have 3D. We can go in and we can count the corpuscles in their eyeballs or something. You know, we know that's not true. But it doesn't matter. We still are allowed to kill babies in the womb. But then we moved on and we began to legitimize homosexuality. Homosexuals used to be a pariah in society. It was against the law. And it was against the law for a reason. It is destructive of the human body. Aside from the fact that it's disgusting. It is physically damaging to the body. We outlawed it, not so much because God said, but because it was unsafe, unsavory. Say, no. Do you know what AIDS is? Do you know where it comes from? Do you know how it's spread? Come on, people. Then there was the acceptance of bisexuality. I can be a man. I can choose to be a woman. All I have to do is start dressing like a woman, talking like a woman, acting like a woman, put lipstick on, I'm a woman. And then one day I can go back to being a man. I go to work, I'm a man. I go out to party, I'm a woman. Now it's transgenderism. The point I'm trying to make is we as a culture will not have God to rule over us. We do not want to be held accountable to some outdated rule or regulation in an old book. No? Well, who is it that created male and female, ruling that efforts to change this decree would be met with eternal damnation? Go check the Old Testament Decalogue. You'll see the penalty for homosexuality is death on the spot. Not by a trial of your peers, but unilaterally, summarily. In the course of all this, the forgotten victims have always been the children. Children brutally dissected while still in the womb, unable to fight back or even to be heard. Children discarded to be cared for by grandparents, who were the only adults in the room at the time. Children ripped from their fathers and in some cases their mothers through divorce. Divorce is always about the children. The parents separate, the children's pay. Children forced to grow up in an unbalanced system in terms of social development and parental patterning. Children who never see, boys who never see what a man is really like. Girls who never see what a woman is really like. Children who today eschew marriage as an outdated tradition. We don't even need to be married anymore. Living without a mate, although not without conjugal rights. Living with a person as though they are married, but they're not. Living with a person of their own gender and openly calling them their husband or their wife, regardless of the gender. Oh, and we accept all that. Well, largely because we can't do anything about it. But most often as a means of legitimizing this form of sin, hoping to ease our own natural conscience and or values. Well, as the feller in the stage play movie, Oklahoma, once sang, we've gone about as far as we can go. Or have we? Today, doctors are prescribing drugs outside their intended purpose. Courts are revoking parental rights in order to impose unregulated hormone blockers. And medical associations are being co-opted by trans radicals who promote such treatments despite all the evidence of their harm. What am I talking about? Transgenderism. The scientifically impossible idea that a boy just might be a girl, or vice versa. They might be something other than the way they are constructed if they think they are. They might be something other than the way they've been constructed if they want to be. Or if their parents believe that their child is not the gender he or she appears to be. And all of this is under the umbrella of transgenderism. A term 10 years ago people laughed at, scoffed at, made faces at. Oh, come on. But in this 21st century, nobody's laughing. Today, doctors are prescribing hormones in order to aid the transformation of bodies into the gender of choice. And they're doing all of this, why? Well, because of how these children feel. I don't feel like a boy. I don't feel like a girl. I look like a boy, but I really like playing with dolls, and I like this, and vice versa. It's the power of belief over reality. Now, so far, I haven't told you anything you didn't know. But today, doctors are prescribing hormone blockers in children prior to puberty, 8, 9, 10 years of age, in order to stall natural development, to stop them from becoming fully what they were born to be. The child's hormones are deliberately forced out of balance in order to forestall the natural development. And they do all this, why? Well, in large part, I'm assuming, the majority of these children are experiencing a mental disorder. At least that's what it used to be called. The most common is a drug called Lupron. Lupron suppresses estrogen production in girls and is used on pre-adolescent girls who believe themselves to be boys. So what does the drug do to these children? Well, the drug is apparently known to induce irreversible effects on the pituitary gland. Puberty is a crucial time for increasing bone density, and many experts believe that parents may never develop healthy adult, or patients may never develop healthy adult bone density after disrupting their puberty. We have a name for this condition. It's called gender dysphoria. It's not a scientific designation, it's a psychological designation. But even at this, gender dysphoria is known to resolve itself in 80 to 95% of the cases with traditional psychotherapy. So why the rush? Why go after these little kids? Well, largely because the child wants it, no doubt. And because the parents have no reference for any of this. They are adrift in the culture with no moorings, nothing to hold on to. There's no social standard. There's no historical standard. There's no psychological standard. And oh yes, there's no biblical standard. No reference points for anybody to hold on to. You see, in order for this kind of thing to happen, you have to abandon common sense. You have to abandon any biblically based religious understanding in order to pursue this kind of treatment, or even just to give it credibility. You have to be out in Never Never Land with no reference points. Why? Well, because the culture isn't like this, except where you live, and because the Bible declares that God has made us what we are. Male and female created he them, the Genesis record shows. Each on uniquely equipped. Each of these people, these groups are uniquely equipped for the responsibilities that are given them. And if we are to glorify God, if we are to make God look good in the eyes of other humans, or in the eyes of those spiritual values, we must stay within the bounds he designated and created. Now do you see what's going on? It's not simply gender dysphoria. It is the complete abandonment of God. I will not have this man to rule over me. I am not made in the image of God. I am whatever I choose to be. Well, folks, that is just sheer rebellion. A rebellion against reason. Look in the mirror. It is a form of spiritual and social anarchy. And any sane, unconditioned human knows that's true. We're talking about abusing hormone blockers in order to accomplish something that is logically, medically, physically, morally, spiritually destructive. And that so many have embraced it as a new normal just makes the point. Endocrinologist Dr. Michael Laidlaw has warned not only of the psychological dangers of abusing hormone blockers to prevent puberty, but the irreversible effects on the pituitary gland. Puberty is a crucial time for increasing that bone density. And Laidlaw, along with other experts, believe that patients may never, ever develop healthy adult bone density as a result. And 100% of patients who have been treated with hormone blockers have gone on later to receive an invasive series of opposite gender hormone treatments and/or gender reassignment surgeries. Many of them first removed from their parental home by the courts. Children given to others to raise, grandparents perhaps, aunts, uncles, or just people more willing to sacrifice this child on the altar of the child's unlearned, ill-equipped self. It's all part of the new growing social construct. one which features government and schools in place of parents, and that a growing number of parents are advocating their primary responsibilities just makes it easier and easier. Children are increasingly running their own lives, making their own decisions, pulling away from their parents and whatever genetic heritage they have at a very young age to race after whatever the world is showing them. And the world is showing them on television and in videos and on their phones. And most children 8 years old and up have phones. Without stable homes, sound biblical foundation, and spiritual roots, society is being uprooted before our very eyes. The Judeo-Christian foundations that built this country made it not only strong, it made it secure. And those things are now being torn up because we actually believe we can do better. We just need to be released from these moral constraints. The truth, if we could, others in this world would be as strong and as vibrant as we, as Americans, have been. That they are not ought to tell us something. It's not the luck of the draw. It's not an accident of nature that made this country what it is. It's our biblical roots, our spiritual foundation that carried us through the centuries, despite the evil that has always sought to tear us apart. That men and women told the truth, did what was right. We have now reached a point where the next generation does not know God. He's a swear word to them, or he's Benny Hinn, or Joel Osteen, or somebody else's version. And the future is not at all secure as it once was. Our future leaders are uneducated in biblical values, and they are uncaring in the area of godliness. And their decisions are beginning to give them away.